should we talk about Taker first before we talk about the card, or should we?
I think we talk about Taker first.
People want to talk about Taker, man. I mean, Taker. I mean, people right now in the chat line, Taker. They want to talk about Taker. They want to hear the stories. You know, and the thing is, Taker. I said it last night. We were talking. Not before last in the bar. When I came into WWF back in the day, Taker was the first guy to, even though we, you know, around the same age, you know, we both from Texas. We both
Houston.
represent. Exactly. We both represent. But I still looked at Taker a little bit different than all of the rest of the boys in the locker room, even knowing that we both came from the same area, the same territory. I still looked at him a little bit different in that WWF locker room, just because he was the Undertaker and everyone else looked at him totally different than everyone else in the locker room. And I just felt like it was only right for me to give the Undertaker that respect. So I made sure when I came into WWF, I say WWE now, I you know, it wasn't like, you know, I came in and, you know, tried to, you know, say, hey, man, I'm here or anything like that. No, I said, man, I'm going to come in here, you know, and try to make this thing work out. But Taker was one of the first guys. No, Taker was the first guy to come up to me and say, hey, man, you know, just take it all in, man. It's WrestleMania, bro. You know, don't get no bigger than this, man. Just slow it down, you know, have some fun out there. And I was like, wow, man, you know, that's cool. Taker was the first guy to invite me in the TV locker room, you know, where all the, you know, the top guns would dress and, you know, have their gear hanging and whatnot, just because it was a locker room where it was only, you know, eight people in there. You know, it was cool. I was like, wow, you know, he invited me, you know, I didn't, you know, partake it upon myself to go dress in the TV locker room. I made sure I dressed, you know, in the locker room with all the boys, and there was probably 30 plus guys stinking like crazy. You know, I'm serious, you know, but he was gracious enough to see something in me as well, you know what I mean? So I was like, wow, you know, that's pretty cool. But to watch him, you know, the way he came up, the way he did it, not just with one guy, two guys. Undertaker did it with every guy on the roster, all the way down to the Hurricane. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. My homie, Shane Helm. So
Maven. Remember, he put Maven over.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And people don't remember that kind of stuff. People don't see that kind of stuff. They don't understand. It's like the wind. You know, they can feel it, but they can't touch it. They don't understand why the Undertaker has been around for 30 years and doing it at such a high level the whole time, being at the top of the card for all of those years. Now, I say, guys, these days, you know, we're not going to see too many guys have 30-year careers. We're not going to probably see anyone have a 30-year career.
No.
But for the guys, say 20 years, it's a lot of guys going to work 20 years in this wrestling business, but it's not going to be a whole lot of guys work 20 years at the top of the card, making top billing, top money for all of those years. And that's why I say, man, you know, guys should look and try to pick the brain of a guy like the Undertaker and try to figure out what did he do to parlay this thing for so long. I mean, how did he become so successful? What is the tricks of the trade? That is what these young guys, man, I really think they should be really focusing on, because, man, the art of doing this is not about how fast you do it or anything like that. I watched, you know, we're going to be talking about the main event, and I saw a quote on Twitter. No, it wasn't on Twitter. It might have been on one of the sites, and it said, "I wonder who produced that match." That's something out of this freaking world. I wonder who produced that match. Like a TV show or something. That's what wrestling has come to, where somebody on some site would make a statement like that. It's ridiculous. working, man. We're working. All right.
Right.
Nobody producing anything. All right.
Right.
This is what's called working. A lot of those guys might get produced matches, but some guys go out and work, and that's what I saw when I watched those guys go out there and do their thing. But back to Taker, man, he was that type of guy. He was the guy that went out and worked. He was the guy that didn't need, a net or anything like that. He was the guy that was going to make you feel like you didn't need a net at the same time. And that's what a general truly is. And that's what the Undertaker was to the business, man. Awesome. Awesome.
I mean, it's hard to even put it into words. They played that little package before his farewell address. And I want to talk about the actual ceremony that you were involved in and kind of the ins and outs of that. But when you looked at the package, and you think about this guy came in literally 30 years ago to the day yesterday on November 22nd, 1990. And he saw the end of Hulkamania, right? He saw WWF become a publicly traded company. He saw the rise and the retirement of guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, guys like The Rock, right? Even yourself, right? When you came up to the top and then even retired, he saw that. He saw the rise of Cena, of Randy, of AJ, of any guy who's been around in the last 30 years, and he's always been that constant. He's always been relevant. He's always been in the main event of the card. When Taker comes back, it always felt like a big deal. It never felt like, oh my God, they're still bringing out the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Get some new ideas. Never once did any wrestling fan feel that way. And you're right, to be able to do that for 3 decades, longer than I've even put feet on this earth. He's been in the main event of every wrestling show for 30 years as the same character. You as to have that, someone like that as a resource, that would be the guy, and I'm sure that everyone has, that you're constantly tugging on. And I think the fact that we've been able to look at inside his mind over the last year with stuff like the Last Ride documentary, all the interviews that he's been doing, still can't wait for him to be on this show one day. And just to hear his insight, hear his story, hear his mindset going into all these matches, the way that he looked at them. He looked at every match like it was the most important match he was ever going to wrestle in. And I think that that's the thing that some guys fall into. They just think, oh, this is a match, that we're going to do on a Monday night. This is a match that we're going to do here. This match we're going to do here. Yeah. Taker wrestled every match like it was the most important match, and that's probably why he always had the biggest connection with the fans. Have you ever heard of a louder reaction than a gong and the lights going out? Every time it happened, it was the roof blew off the place.
That's what really that's what really tugged at me more than anything was no fans in the arena. That was that celebration was supposed to be had in front of 30,000 people, man. Easy up, maybe 50,000 WrestleMania, maybe 100,000. Yeah. That was supposed to be a celebration for all of the fans that have rooted for the Undertaker on all continents.